Hi viewers, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to see a very important derivation in quantum mechanics, that is nothing but particle in one-dimensional box. We know pretty well that classical mechanics deals fairly good with macro bodies. However, when it comes to microparticles like electrons, protons, molecules, atoms, etc., classical mechanics fails. Therefore, in this particular situation, the quantum mechanics comes handy. Particle in one-dimensional box is the simplest case that we can think of. Of course, one can think of even a particle in three-dimensional box, which will be having a close analogy towards the motion of electron in an atom. However, the solving of this particular particle in three-dimensional box is bit difficult. That too, with time-dependent Schrödinger's wave equation, it becomes more complex. So today, we are going to restrict ourselves to solve the energy of particle in one-dimensional box, that too using time-independent Schrödinger's wave equation. Let us proceed. Let us consider a particle of mass m is moving in a one-dimensional box of box length a. So the length of this particular box here is taken as a. So the particle is not allowed to come out of the box, therefore the potential on the walls as well as outside the box is taken as infinity. So here the particle is allowed to move only along one dimension, namely x direction, like this, and it starts from x is equal to 0 and it reaches the other wall, namely at x is equal to a. This is our simple assumption. So we are assuming a particle of mass m moving in a one-dimensional box of box length a, and outside the box and on the walls the potential is taken as infinity, whereas inside the box the potential is taken as 0. To describe the motion of this particular particle, let us consider Schrödinger's wave equation. The Schrödinger's wave equation for this particle in one dimension can be written as dou square psi by dou x square plus 8 pi square m by h square into e minus v psi is equal to 0. So this is equation number 1, which is representing the motion of this particle in one-dimensional box along x direction. Okay, now let us see the cases. The first case is outside the box. We know pretty well outside the box potential is taken as infinity, including the walls. So what is happening? Substitute v is equal to infinity in equation 1. We get dou square psi by dou x square plus 8 pi square m by h square into e minus infinity into psi is equal to 0. But we know very well e minus infinity is nothing but minus infinity, and minus infinity into this term 8 pi square m by h square will give you another big minus infinity. Therefore, we are going to get dou square psi by dou x square minus infinity into psi is equal to 0. From this I can write that dou square psi by dou x square is equal to infinity into psi. Infinity can also be written as 1 by 0. I am writing infinity as 1 by 0 to make things little bit easier. If I cross multiply, I am going to get 0 is equal to psi, which implies psi is equal to 0 outside the box. That means the particle is not at all existing outside the box, even on the walls of the box. This is case 1. Case 2. Inside the box. We know pretty well that inside the box potential is taken as 0. So substitute the potential v value 0 in Schrödinger's wave equation 1. So then we get dou square psi by dou x square plus 8 pi square m by h square into e minus 0 into psi is equal to 0. We know pretty well e minus 0 is e, Therefore, the above expression becomes dou square psi by dou x square plus 8 pi square m by h square into E into psi is equal to 0. Since E minus 0 is nothing but E. Okay, fine. I am assuming this total 8 pi square m by h square into E as some k square, which is a variable. So I am going to get dou square psi by dou x square plus k square into psi is equal to 0, since 8 pi square m by h square into E is taken as k square. Okay, so this is a second order differential equation which is very important. This is a second order differential equation. A probable solution for this particular differential equation can be psi is equal to a sin kx plus b cos kx, where a and b are constants. Now, how do you derive the values of a and b? To derive the values of a and b, we are going to apply boundary conditions. Boundary condition 1. This particular boundary condition says that when x is equal to 0, the particle is on the wall and it does not exist as per case 1, therefore psi should become 0. So simply substitute x is equal to 0 and psi is equal to 0 in this particular solution. Let us suppose this is equation 3. So substitute x is equal to 0. Wherever you see x, you put 0. Wherever you see psi, you put 0 in this particular equation 3. Then we get 0 is equal to a sin k into 0 plus b cos k into 0. We know very well 0 is equal to a sin 0. Then we will get 0 is equal to a sin 0 plus b cos 0. We all know very well sin 0 is equal to 0. Therefore, this entire term vanishes. Hence, we will get b is equal to 0, since cos 0 is equal to 1 and sin 0 is equal to 0. So, you substitute b is equal to 0 in equation 3. Then this particular term vanishes from the equation. Then what is that we are going to get? Let us see. We get psi is equal to a sin kx. That's it. Because b is equal to 0, let this equation be 4. Now I have yet to get the value of another constant, namely a. For that, I will be applying one more boundary condition, that is boundary condition 2. So to get the value of another constant a, let us apply another boundary condition, that is boundary condition 2. What does this particular boundary condition tell us? According to this boundary condition, psi becomes 0 when x is equal to a. So substitute x is equal to a and psi is equal to 0 in equation 4 to get the value of a. Then what is that we are going to get? 0 is equal to a sin k. Instead of x, I should put a. That's it. Capital A sin ka is equal to 0. If this is the case, I should get either a should be equal to 0 or sin ka should be equal to 0. But I am avoiding this situation where a is equal to 0. Why? Because already in the most probable solution, the constant b value is 0, and if I take a also 0, then psi becomes 0 all the time. But the particle is existing inside the box, therefore psi cannot be 0 all the time. Hence, a cannot be taken as 0. That implies sin Ka must be equal to 0. If that is the case, we know pretty well sin x becomes 0 only when x is equal to n pi. Therefore, here this particular condition gives me Ka as n pi. From this I can write K is equal to n pi by A. That implies K square is equal to n square pi square by A square. But already we know pretty well K square from equation 2a is already taken as 8 pi square m by h square into E. So now equating the right hand sides in these two equations, we are going to get n square pi square by A square is equal to 8 pi square m by h square into E. Now cancel, strike off the pi square on both sides, pi square got cancelled. As a result, what is that we are going to get? Energy of the particle in one-dimensional box E is equal to n square h square divided by 8m A square. So this is the ultimate expression that we are in need of. So this is the expression for the energy of particle in one-dimensional box. From this particular expression, it is very clear that energy is directly proportional to n square and energy E is inversely proportional to A square. Now, what are the various terms involved in this particular expression? Here E is energy of the particle in one-dimensional box, n is any positive integer like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. H is Max Planck's constant, m is mass of the particle which is moving in the one-dimensional box, A is the box length. What do you understand by the energy proportional to n square here? So, from this particular expression, we came to know that energy of the particle moving in one-dimensional box is quantized. It is not a continuum, but it is discrete. When I have n is equal to 1, I am going to get the energy of the ground state, which is nothing but E1, which is equal to h square divided by 8m A square. When n is equal to 2, I am going to get the energy of first excited state, nothing but 2 square h square divided by 8m A square. That is nothing but 4 into h square divided by 8m A square. So when n is equal to 3, I am going to get E3 as 3 square into h square divided by 8m A square, which implies it is 9 times h square by 8m A square. So, when n is equal to 1, let us suppose this is a scenario where n is equal to 1. So I am going to get E1 as h square divided by 8m A square. When n is equal to 2, I am going to get E2 as 4 times h square by 8m A square. When n is equal to 3, I am going to get E3 as 9h square by 8m A square. So if you see the gap between E1 and E2 and E2 and E3, you can easily say that the gap is increasing. So as n value increases, the energy gap between the energy levels also increases, and the energies of particle in one-dimensional box are discrete like E1, E2, E3, etc. You cannot have any value in between these values. Very, very important. Now, what happens to the energy of the particle with box length? As box length increases, the energy of the particle decreases, because we know pretty well E is inversely proportional to box length square. In this particular session, we have seen a most important derivation of energy of particle in one-dimensional box, which is the simplest case in quantum mechanics problems. However, This particular case can be extended to 3 dimensions, and one can draw an analogy of an electron moving around the nucleus in an atom from this. Of course, this is after all a simple solution given for the electron in one-dimensional box, but truly speaking, in free space, if we want to solve, we need to include the time-dependent Schrodinger's wave equation, in which case the derivation becomes more complex. Okay, we'll be discussing yet another problem in quantum mechanics in our next session.